and only the lady that everybody knows is a community activist. I'm talking about the one and only Georgia Allen. Good afternoon, Georgia.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is everybody ready for Thursday?
Just telling you, got to be.
Everybody ready for Thursday. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm living.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm telling you, it's been a couple of crazy weeks
Oh man,
lately.
it's real crazy.
Wow. I'm like, what is going on out here?
Yeah.
But anyway, I am Georgia F. Allen, and this is GA for Justice. Every week, I bring you greetings. Uh, Welcome to our show today. And as always, we want to thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn, aka Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker, who always open up his airwaves to bring our listening audience a conversation for information, a conversation for correction, as well as a conversation for transformation.
Mhm.
And we're always excited to come on and just so that we can kind of share a little bit with our listening audience and just kind of keep you abreast of what's taking place, what's going on, sometimes on the local level, sometimes on the state level, and sometimes nationally. Um, this week has been a little bit of a challenge for me. I've had a family member who had to go to the hospital, had to have some surgery. And I share this story because we're talking about our topic today, which is in a blink of an eye. And I use that as a topic because sometimes we forget that so many things can happen in just a blink of an eye. And again, with my family member, they were having shortness of breath, tightness in the chest, and couldn't figure out what was going on. Ultimately, we discovered that there was a clot that could have transitioned throughout the body and could have created a situation that just like that in the blink of an eye could have changed all types of things within the family. And so I share that because I want us to know and to realize and open up our minds that we have just a second, just a minute, just an hour, just a week or a month or a year to make a difference in not only our lives, our family lives, but in the lives of many, many others. And I don't want us to ever forget that. Every day that we wake up is a very, very special day. And
Yeah.
we need to acknowledge that. We need to appreciate that. And stop just thinking about yourself. Begin to think about the many lives that you can help to transform. Begin to think about the many areas that you can impact in ways because of your knowledge, because of your experience, that just in a blink of an eye, you can begin to transform things in your community, transform things in your neighborhood, transform things in your homes, with your family, with your organizations, your churches, groups, associations, and pause for a moment and think about that. And if you had a magic wand, what would you do in the blink of an eye
Yeah.
to have an impact on our community and our society? Well, with that being said, I want to welcome the listening audience. I want to welcome friends, relatives, and others to the show today. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things. This past week, of course, in addition to having family medical issues, we've also had a city council meeting.
Mm.
We had a town hall meeting with one of the city council members, and a lot of things have been going on. And of course, in Virginia, because we have elections every year, just last month, we had an election. And so we saw a transformation in the election and who got elected. Also, on the Supreme Court level, we saw transformation again. We saw one decision that they made, which upheld the Voting Rights Act, And then a week or two later, we saw another decision that had been precedence for years and years, affirmative action, that they overturned that. So in a blink, just want to remind you, in a blink of an eye, you can watch how things can change very rapidly and can be long-term changes as well.
Right.
So I want the listening audience today to recognize that you have power to be that blink of an eye change. You have the power to transform things around the area in your community. Now, I live in Virginia Beach, but this show goes out far and wide.
Yeah.
You can click on wherever you are and listen. You can listen now, you can listen later. But again, you have the power, excuse me, losing my voice, I guess, because I've had a number of challenges. And again, just in the blink of an eye, just hearing about someone having to go into the hospital and having to go through surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, whenever you go through surgery, and for all these people that love to have these voluntary different types of surgeries and everything, every time you go under the knife, you are at risk. Okay.
Yeah.
And don't ever forget that. So in a blink of an eye, and we just heard about this recently with a young lady that wanted to change her body. She so wanted to change her body. I believe she had 2 children, went down to Mexico because it was cheaper. And for $3,000, she could have that surgery done in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
That may have cost her $7,000 or $10,000 here in the United States. Well, she went down to Mexico. She never made it back home.
Wow.
Whatever age she was, if it was 40 years old, that's the last age she will be, is age 40, because she doesn't get another day. And so in a blink of an eye, just a decision that you make can transform your life, but all the people around you. So her children now will no longer have a mother, because in a blink of an eye, in a decision-making time, she made that decision to go have a surgery. And so we have to be very careful about what we do in the blink of an eye. And again, laws can change in the blink of an eye. Supreme Court can make decisions that will impact your life for decades in a blink of an eye. It seems like it's a lot longer, but really, if you're on Earth right now and you're looking at climate change, that fire that's happening, the heat that's happening, all of those things, in essence, are happening in the blink of an eye.
Yes.
Why is that? Why do you say that? Because a day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day in the sight of our Heavenly Father.
Hello.
It is a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're looking at what's taking place, life changes, health changes, all of these things that are taking place, they're taking place in a blink of an eye. Opportunities take place in the blink of an eye. You can choose to grab that opportunity, or you can choose to wait in a blink of an eye. So I want you to just kind of take that in, pause for a moment and take that in, because what we have a tendency to do is we say, oh, well, I got tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll put it off to next week. Oh, you know what? I got a plan. I'm going to take my time. And we forget that in a blink of an eye, you may not have that much time. So I'm hoping today to kind of share with you, because again, there's been city council meetings, there has been a town hall meeting, all of which provide a lot of information. And what we hope that you get out of the show today is kind of like a call. The NAACP call them calls to action. And so I hope that you have a call in your heart, a call in your thoughts, a call in your mindset, but a call to action. Because if we continue to operate in this mindset or put it off to tomorrow or put it off until later, that blink of an eye will be gone, and we will not have that time again to do the work that we need to do to make a change where changes need to be made. Let's take a look at opportunities. In the city of Virginia Beach, as in many, many other cities, there are all types of opportunities and programs that are available. Locally, we had a councilwoman named Sabrina Wooten, who has been fighting ever since she's been on city council for economic parity, economic equity, so that the Black community can have an opportunity to gain access to all of these tax dollars that's coming into the city treasury. And so, under her leadership, she worked to get a disparity study done. Was it a blink of an eye? It doesn't seem like it when you were going through the process, but when you sit back and you look and you kind of take it all in, you recognize that really it was kind of fairly quickly that we had the disparity study done. And then from that disparity study, she continued on. She opened up doors where she would have events all around the city, events for young businesses, new businesses, where they could come together and perhaps meet with other businesses and share the type of businesses that they have, and they can exchange their information and see where they can collaborate together or see where they can share that information with others that might be better, a better business to collaborate with another business that they met at the networking event. So that's an opportunity. They also have a area that new businesses can go to, and it's called the Hive here in the city of Virginia Beach. Now there's locations you may have something similar. It allows people to go into a set up office space where they have access to team members that they can inquire about how to set up a business, inquire of accountants and lawyers and other resources that new businesses may need. And we simply call it the Hive. And I have here the mission. The Hive is a business resource center. So if you're living in the city of Virginia Beach, it's located right where we call the town center. It is designed to promote an innovative and entrepreneurship ecosystem in Virginia Beach. The Hive is committed to serving small businesses, particularly those who are in socially and economically disadvantaged communities. And for those of you who are looking, you can see it on the screen. The Hive. This is an excellent place for new businesses to go to gain knowledge, to get information, to gain access to resources that are available to them. And if you're not familiar and you haven't heard of the Hive, well, guess what? I'm introducing you to the Hive today, along with other things that I'll be talking about. But I did want to kind of speak to the Hive because we tend to think that in our cities, we see a lot of things that are wrong within our cities. And let me share this with you. When there are things that are wrong wherever you are, whether it's your church, whether it's your organizations, whether it's your city, your state, you have a responsibility to hold people to account. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of good things going on, because I, again, attended a meeting with my city council member that represent me in the council district number 4 yesterday evening. And it just seemed like it just was nothing but, oh, look at all the positive things that are happening. And yes, we want to hear about the positive, But you don't have to say these are negative things that are happening. You can just say there are some shortcomings, and let's see where we can close some of these gaps. Let's talk about some of the shortcomings, because you have an audience, you have a listening audience, you have a captive audience, you have a group of people that are there that probably wouldn't be there if they didn't care about their city. So therefore, if you're going to share with your community about the positive things that are happening, you don't have to say, well, and guess what? All these negative things are happening too. No, you can say there are gaps, there are shortcomings, there are many, many, many adjectives that one can use in order to make people aware of where there is a shortcoming that we can then help to create a better outcome. Because the whole goal should be, when we meet with our council members at our community meetings and events, or at our town halls or whatever, should be to be honest with the listening audience. You're wasting time if the only thing you do is say, oh, let me pat myself on the back, and oh, let me tell you all the great things. Even the police department, they showed the different numbers of crime that was taking place. And of course, Virginia Beach is a very safe city. Then when he went out and he looked for all the cities that was about the same size as ours, he showed all the cities that had more crime than Virginia Beach, and made sure that Virginia Beach was in last place in terms of crime. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now I know there have to be more cities out there that are around the same size as Virginia Beach that perhaps have even less crime than Virginia Beach has. But he made sure that he only pulled the information of the cities that had a higher crime rate. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Would have been more honest for you to do a combination thereof. Yes, there are cities that have higher crime rates than Virginia Beach, but there are also cities that have lower crime rates than Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
That would have sounded a lot more accurate than putting yourself up on a pedestal as if there is nothing else that you need to do to make improvements. Again, in a blink of an eye, if you are not paying attention as a resident, you would be like, wow, we're just doing great. So you would say, okay, well, there's no need for improvement because we're just doing fine. But in every situation, regardless of where it is, regardless of what it is, there's always, always room for improvement, or always room to tweak and make things somewhat better. So I just thought that was interesting. And it leads me to tell you, don't forget to get involved in your communities wherever you are. And I said, do not forget to get involved in your communities wherever you are, whether it's your civic league, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's your urban league, Red Cross, any of your various social organizations, from your fraternities to sororities to Masonic to Eastern Stars. You really need to get involved in your organizations. And one thing that I want to remind persons of, because as we get involved in our organizations, we get excited about fundraising. And yes, you need funds to operate. But don't allow your fundraising and how much money you have to overshadow the substance of who you are and why you exist. Let me repeat that. It is great for us to raise funds, and we should, because you need operating funds to do the work in the community. But do not allow that to overshadow the substance of the structure of your organization, what your organization is about, who it is, what it is, why it is in existence. Because if you get so involved in the finances you may forget the family of people that you are supposed to be working on behalf of. Okay. You may end up forgetting those people that you should be working for. And people, they don't care how much you know. They only care about how much you care about them. They don't care about how much money you have. They genuinely care about, do they care about me? Are they concerned about my concerns, about my well-being? And it's very critical when you're in the civil rights arena that you make sure that you are concerned about the neighborhood, that you are concerned about what's going on in the education system, that you are concerned about our families and about whether or not our young children are being mistreated in the systems that they are a part of, in the school system. If they're on a sporting team, that they're not the first one to always be placed on the bench, okay? Because that happens a lot. That happens a lot. I, the coach really wants his best buddy's son to be in the game. So your son said, "No, coach, I don't think that's right. You go sit on the bench." He didn't yell at the coach. He didn't kind of confront the coach and buff up or anything like that. He just said, "Well, I'm not sure if that's right." He's just questioning the right and the wrong of something. But it just a teeny bit of an opening, in a blink of an eye, your son is now sitting on the bench and the coach's best friend is in the game. So keep in mind, all of this stuff happens in the blink of an eye. And so we need to make sure that we're involved, that we are at the football games, that we are at the basketball games and tennis matches and the lacrosse and all of that. And yes, our children do play lacrosse, and yes, they do swim. Okay. So make sure that we are everywhere. And this is one of the things that in a blink of an eye is why we find a lot of times that our children are not being seen or not being placed in positions where they should be, because there's nobody in the room. You have to be in the room. On Tuesday night, when I went to city council meeting, Councilwoman Sabrina Wooten had an item on the agenda. We made the announcement at the NAACP meeting. Go out to city council meeting, support her. Well, some folks got phone calls and said, well, in the afternoon session, it passed, and all they're going to do is just a ceremonial vote in city council chambers. So a lot of people chose not to come. I chose to come. A few others chose to come. Why is that important? It's important to be in the room, okay? If I can say anything to my community, to my nation, you have to be in the room. Because if you're not in the room, the last time they supported it, okay, when they said, okay, we're going to raise the money for the program that Councilwoman Wooten wanted to increase the funding. Yes, they raised the funding, but they also looked out in that audience and they said, well, let me see who's out here. Are they genuinely interested in the raising of the funds? Are they concerned? Are they willing to support it? Are they in the audience? When I looked around, did I see them in the audience saying that, hey, they really are serious about this? They flooded council chambers to let us know that they are serious. Or did they feel like because it was voted on in the afternoon session and there was a ceremony vote at council chambers, no, I don't really need to show up. It's not that important. It's already passed, so I don't really need to be there. You're being in the house, and this is wherever you live. Community, family, wherever you live. even if you know in advance that it passed in the afternoon session because you watched it on the screen, you watched it live on screen, still go to council chambers because they cannot see you on the screen, but they can see your face when you're in the place. Because in a blink of an eye, that whole thing can change because you weren't there, you weren't present. And I tell you, people who show up ultimately receive more than people who sit at home, especially if you're from our community. Now, those big guys who got buddies and friends and stuff, and they're shuffling money behind the scenes or whatever to get their items passed and get get their item on the agenda and get things the way they want. They have been doing that for years. For years, okay? You're new to the game. Think about it. 1963, the March on Washington, that's 60 years ago. Sweetheart, you're new to the game. They've been doing this for 400 years. Okay? 60 years don't compare to 400.
Yeah.
You are new to the game. Do you have anything for us, Henderson? We always trade
yeah.
I
was just going to say a few things, and not too much because, I get long-winded. But since you said lacrosse, my granddaughter plays lacrosse down in Virginia Beach.
All right.
She's got 3 or 4 different, she's traveled to 3 or 4 universities this weekend because she graduates next year, and some of the top universities, VMC, my son said, and a couple of other, want her to come there to play, offering her, major scholarships to play lacrosse.
All right.
And, the other thing what you're saying with the problems that we face, people fail to realize, as you say, they think in 60 years it was 400 years. That's why they don't want. That's why they're trying to get away from talking about it in schools.
Absolutely.
They don't want to talk about the struggle that Black people go through. And we got everybody else coming and stepping up to the table like, hey, what about us? What about us? What was you doing for 400 years? And in the United States. Oh, I'm sorry. Before it became the United States. So we got to get it recognized that for 400 years, it wasn't the United States. It was 13 colonies. That's why it became the North and the South Civil War, because our ancestors was doing all the labor, and the North didn't appreciate, you trying to end something that's benefiting you and not benefiting the South, and because if you let the slaves free, that goes their economy, because that's where the money was, right here in this. So
absolutely. And again, in a blink of an eye, you can see how things can transform.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at education. We need to change a child's anger to a child's aspirations in a blink of an eye. If we're working the way that we should be working on behalf of our children, on behalf of our grandchildren, and doing the work that we're supposed to do, we should change that A of anger to A of aspirations. See, we talk a lot about education excellence, but we almost never speak to education aspirations. Okay, you got to have some aspirations to get to the excellence. If all you're doing is just showing up and you're not aspiring for something greater or more, chances are you're not going to get to excellence. So we need to start changing how we talk about our children and their education so that we can change the outcome. And I look at any number of things in a blink of an eye. In a blink of an eye, we can change a lot of the outcomes that we have simply by how we say things and simply how we promote things. We don't always promote each other enough. And so in a blink of an eye, people lose their juice, they get depressed, they get discouraged, and all of these things take place. And so therefore, we don't reach the level that we should be reaching. Corporations. in a blink of an eye. Let's talk about our corporations. If our corporations would move away from the greed mindset to a giving mindset, guess what? We would see a different outcome. We would definitely see a different outcome. If all they think about greed and how much they can put in their pocket instead of how much they can put into the community, and that means by paying people fairly so that people are now able to spend, you're going to still get your money. You're just getting it a little differently. That's all. Mm-hmm. You're just getting it a little differently. If I'm paying people well and now they're able to shop here and shop there, all of these businesses are making money. If I pay people well, then guess what? Some of those people are now going to be able to start their own businesses after they've worked with you for a while. And that business can perhaps, because of the knowledge that they have, support and grow the business that they came out of, because the information that they have can now help you improve on what you have. And so we're not losing anything. We're not losing anything by actually giving back into our communities. And yeah, they write the check, and yeah, they do the little gatherings and things of that nature, but they're not genuinely giving back, because every time they give out a check or whatever, they raise something by 2 cents. So they didn't give it to you. You pay for it.
Hello.
You pay for it. So in a blink of an eye, our corporations can do better if they move away from greed and move toward giving, and genuinely giving, not this fake giving, but the actual giving. In a blink of an eye. In a blink of an eye, we can change America to much better. We can raise that bar instead of sitting down here underneath the curb. We can definitely be way above the curb just by raising the bar. We lowered the bar. We actually lowered the bar, because anytime you can have anybody and everybody running for office, it's time to change the qualifications to run for office for Congress, Senate, and the United States president. A lot of those people shouldn't be there.
Hello.
But guess what? They got there in the blink of an eye. They got there because folks said, well, they're not doing enough for me, so I'm not going to vote. So in a blink of an eye, you saw Congress change, but they didn't bring competent people in. They brought every loudmouth, every idiot, everything that you wouldn't even have the people in your house sitting at your dinner table.
Yeah.
And it gags you to see them on television. So why would you have them elected to office? Hello. Why? But they were elected. How? In a blink of an eye. Because you chose to sit out an election. And in the blink of an eye, you saw that change. In a blink of an eye, you saw this U.S. Supreme Court change, and many of the judges change because you decided to sit out an election.
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye. But you can change some of this stuff. There's ways that you can change, but I would say first start at home. Starting in your own neighborhoods, in your own community, get involved. There are people out there who need to be running for office. I tell my family all the time, they live all over the country. I said, if you don't want to run for office, don't you have friends that might be willing to run for office so that there can be a new voice at the table? People who have common sense. I want people with common sense more than I want them with college degrees. I'll be honest with you, because a lot of those people, they got their degree for free. Okay, now let's just be real. They had a mama or daddy or somebody. They paid a college or university. We saw Aunt Becky. Aunt Becky went and got her kids into a college that they had no business being in. She said her kids was on the swimming team. Didn't have no. hadn't won a swim meet, hadn't won anything, but because they had money, they were able to get their child in school. So I'm not overly interested in all these so-called educated people with all these degrees. I'm interested in people with common sense and substance. Okay. Doesn't mean that we can't have people with college degrees and education, because we do have some really qualified people, really competent people But the bottom line is we need to do better about the people who we elect to office. We need to do better. Okay, policing. In a blink of an eye, we can lose our sons, our daughters, our moms, our fathers, and everything. So what can we do? We can change policing from a position of power where we just put on our gun and man, we're it. We're the big cheese, man. So we go out here and we think, okay, every time there's an incident, it requires me to pull my firearm and requires me to shoot somebody. So let's change policing from a position of this false bravado and sense of power mindset to more of a protection mindset. Let's begin to think about it from a standpoint of how we're going to protect our community and keep them safe, keep our community strong. Because the other way is not working so well for us, because a lot of the people that die in police shootings are some of the best and the brightest. We hear this other group talk about the best and the brightest, the best and the brightest. Yeah. In Texas, where the young man was shot and killed sitting at his dinner table. Police walks in the wrong apartment. Here is one of the best and brightest. Smart young man, background in science, technology, and everything. And they go in and, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought I was in my apartment. Okay. In a blink of an eye, that young man lost his life.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have Breonna Taylor, nurse, working to heal people, to help people, to save lives. In a blink of an eye, they walk in her house, apartment, shoot it up. She's lying in her bed, so she couldn't be a threat. Couldn't be a threat. But they were using a position of power instead of a position of protection. Instead of a position of protection. And so we need to change our policing in a blink of an eye from this power structure. I'm better than everybody else, and you listen to me because I'm all that and a bag of chips, to a position of protection. You got anything you want to share with us?
Yeah, it's troubling because our young people deserve a chance and an opportunity to grow up and live. How is it that we came from the wild, wild west, sheriffs, maybe have one deputy, and the Long Ranger, the gentleman was black. When they deputized him, he was a runaway slave. After they looked for him, they couldn't find him because he was on the Indian reservation. You can't find a black man on a Indian reservation if the Indians are black. So let's get that one thing straight. So we get to what they tell history is. Now, this man that they made a movie out of, the Long Ranger, is the black man.
Right. But he didn't look black to me on TV.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying. But he rounded up closely brought in over 3,000 people. Absolutely. By himself.
Absolutely.
I mean, killers and murderers. He even brought in his own son who shot him and killed a man and turned him in. So when we see that, how is it that these people in Wild Wild West, why is it that all of a sudden after slavery, or why slavery, how come we won't ride around shooting, just killing people?
Correct.
But now slavery is over, we civilized, but then we got to have a gun to prove a point. Something wrong with the picture.
Something is very wrong. And again, in the blink of an eye, one of the things that the police chief brought out is that a majority of the crime, believe it or not, is what they call property crime. That's someone going in, stealing a vehicle or stealing a gun out of a vehicle because the idiot left his vehicle unlocked. They have confiscated something like 300 guns that were legally purchased, but ended up in the hands of persons who did not purchase the gun, which ultimately led to crimes.
Yeah.
So remember how they were saying that the young lady over in Newport News or Hampton, when the child went to school and shot his or her teacher, I can't remember, it was a little boy. But anyway, I do believe that when it came to that young lady, they decided to try her. They put her on trial.
Yeah.
Okay. For all kinds of reasons. So help me to understand how you can have a gun in your vehicle, leave the door unlocked, have the gun is not locked away anywhere.
Right.
Folks can come in, get access to it. Sometimes, in some instances, they actually committed a crime with that gun. Tell me why the gun owner isn't going before the judicial system. Help me to understand that. Help me understand that. What did the gun owner look like?
Hello.
What did he look like? And so he, again, in a blink of an eye, this person made a decision which they should not have, to steal a gun. But guess what? The guy who owned the vehicle, or the female or whomever, the person that owned the vehicle, they made a decision to get out of their car, leave their car unlocked, and leave their gun exposed.
Yeah.
So shouldn't they be held responsible for that as well?
Yes.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye, all of these things can happen. That person that took that gun could have cost someone their life. That person who left that gun could be responsible for causing someone to lose their life, because they not only left their door unlocked, but they left their gun where it was easily accessible for someone to take it and use it in nefarious ways. So keep in mind, folks, in a blink of an eye, your whole life can change from one or two decisions. Again, the person that left the door unlocked, that was a decision they made when they got out of their vehicle. The person who left the door unlocked and left the gun exposed, that was a decision they made. And the person who went to that vehicle broke into that vehicle, because if it's not your vehicle, even though the door is unlocked, it's still considered breaking and entering, because you don't own that vehicle. So even though you were able to open the door and get in there and take that gun, it is still considered breaking and entering. So again, these decisions have impacts on other people. And so we need to make wise decisions. We need to make good decisions, because we're affecting a lot more people than just ourselves. Other people are being affected by the decisions that we make. Again, there are a number of things that you can be a part of. The fire department has a cadet program, cadet academy. The police department, they have a cadet academy. They're working with Virginia Wesleyan University now to help with the training process. I know at one time they were working with TCC. Let's talk to our young people about the police department. Guess what? Everybody in the police department does not have to be someone that's on the street packing a gun. There are other positions inside of the police department, at the desk and other areas. Okay. So we want our young people to be aware, but being in that environment also gives them access to more and more information, so that they can then come out and share with the community. In a blink of an eye, gaining knowledge in the blink of an eye can make you more powerful in terms of your service, giving back to your own community. It helps you to become an authority on issues that you did not know about before. So I would encourage our people to go and take a look at the fire department, the EMS, the police department, the sheriff department. Don't keep pushing back against some of those different positions, but go in there with a new mindset to make those groups and organizations better. Because if we're not at the table, if we're not in the room, those decisions are going to be made with or without us. And if you genuinely want to change things in a blink of an eye, get involved. Get to the table. Okay? Get involved, because you really do need to be involved more in your city, in all areas of the city, and not just the same one. It's not enough for you to be in an HR department in the city of Virginia Beach, and you go to work and you go home, and you go to work and you go home. That's not enough. We need you in the finance department too. We need you in the economic department, but we don't need you just pushing a piece of paper. We need you to open your mouth and give voice when you see things that are not going well. We also need you to become a part of your local branches of the NAACP, so that if you feel that when you're talking with knowledge and you're talking with integrity and you're bringing things to the attention of those in authority, and you are not comfortable with their responses, if you are part of an organization, you now have people surrounding you as a family. Most people who are in industries don't speak up and don't speak out because they feel like they're the only person and they feel alone. So stop being alone. We have something like 88, 90,000 Black people in the city of Virginia Beach. I tell you, there would be a different outcome if all of you guys were members. I will tell you that right now. Because talking with people who are part of the NAACP now, when they pick up the phone and call people and say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm with the Virginia Beach NAACP. I'm on Economic Development Committee," or "I'm on the Housing Committee. I'm on the Health Committee," they get return calls. So if you want people to respect you, you need to respect yourself enough to become a part of your own community, your own nation, your own people. And you need to be loyal to them. Don't just come in just so you can get a free ride or so that you got somebody that can protect you. And don't come in and still misbehave and then think somebody's going to go to bat for you. No, you still have to be correct. You still have to have ethics. You still have to have integrity. You still have to have honesty. Okay, becoming a part of an association does not mean that because I'm a part of the association, I got all these people around me, that means I can just do whatever I want to do. No. We have standards, and we don't lower our standards for you or anybody else in a blink of an eye, because I'm going to come correct. And Henderson will tell you,
oh, yeah,
I do not compromise. I don't compromise my values. I don't compromise my ethics. I don't compromise my standards. They're there. I try to follow both sound doctrine as it pertains to scripture, but I also follow the 7 principles of Kwanzaa as well. All right. And I'm going to conclude to say our ministers, they have some skin in this game, or they need to get some skin in this game. Okay, let's talk about our ministers. Okay. If your church is near the projects and you pull together a coalition of other ministers, we should see a difference in outcome. Okay, we should see a difference in outcome. So let's go ahead on and look at what we can do. We can decide as ministers, as churches, we can decide on working on a building, a block, a street, and look to transform that. Okay, say for instance, your church happened to be in a neighborhood that's near a project, or in a neighborhood that's not projects, but over time the area has begun to go down in value and in terms of the folks who are living there.
Right.
And if you're near there, what if you decided to just take one building? Just one building. Do you know that just by doing just that one building, it's going to increase some workers that you have to go out and do more work in the community? And you say, well, why is that? Because they saw what you did with that building that you turned around. They saw the transformation. And so some of those people are going to sign on and say, you know what? Then I want to help you when you go over to the next building. And guess what else is going to happen? Some of those people are going to come out of that building and say, you know what? They're actually doing something worthwhile in my community. And I actually see results. So you know what? Maybe I'll decide to join that church. Okay. You affected an outcome by working on that one building and becoming a partner to the families who are in that building. And you help them to transform their thoughts and the way they act and what they're doing. And now the community sees, you know what? That building that they were working with, those families, all the kids are now straight A students in that building. The parents that are in that building, they were able to find better employment. And some of them, because we don't believe in just jobs, careers, and employment, we also believe in entrepreneurship. Guess what? Because they worked with those people in that building, they introduced them to the hive. And when they went to the hive provided them with resources, and those resources allowed them to work on that business that they had been thinking about doing, but didn't know that there was a place that they could go to get resources. But because that minister came into that building and did what he was taught to do, which is go into the highways and byways and compel men and women to come to Christ, guess what? Those men and women begin to see things that they had not seen before. And because of that, their lives become transformed in a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye. And so we have an opportunity, I said, beyond anything that we could ever imagine here in Virginia Beach. Our crime is low. There are some things that are going on in the city that are for the better. And one of the things that I want to put out on my show time and time again, we need to begin to own some hotels here in Virginia Beach. Hello, family. Hello, community. Hello, my nation. It is time. It is long overdue for us to own our own hotel here in the largest city in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Hello.
I think some land just came available, didn't it? some buildings just got burned up the other day.
Yeah, so did.
A whole block is now ready to be purchased.
Exactly. And again, if our ministers go in and transform a building, they can transform another one and another one. They can transform that neighborhood, and ultimately they can transform the whole entire community around them. And when they do that, you're going to see some different outcomes. I have a couple of quotes. One by Dr. Miles Monroe. He said, destiny demands diligence. So to my family, to my community, we're going to have to be diligent in getting the work done. And so, and my brother, someone that I absolutely love, Dr. Jeremiah Wright, he said, being at odds with policy is nothing. Being at odds with policy is nothing new to me. And if anybody knows Georgia Allen, being at odds with policies in my city and around the area, that is not anything new to me, because I'm going to go after it. If the policy does not work in our best interest, guess what? We got to stand up and go after it. With that being said, again, today's program was simply in a blink of an eye. So let's make some changes in the blink of an eye. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
All right. You've been listening and watching GA4 Justice with your host, community activist, Georgia Allen. And don't forget to share this link with other people on your social media outlet. And remember, if you show up, then we can show out. Learn to register your kids and family members about the NAACP in Virginia Beach membership drive. Until next time, this is WBDM. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye.